Bloomington Gold started back in 1973. Here we are, the 50th anniversary of the show, home again for the second year. Guy Larsen is with me right now, president of Bloomington Gold. And Guy, how important was it to bring the show home, not only for its second year, but also the 50th anniversary?
Well, it's had a great impact. The people attending were thrilled about being back there. They liked the town. Many of them came years back when it was in Bloomington, so they're pretty familiar with it. And I believe it's fair to say that Normal and Bloomington have been wonderful hosts and welcoming us, and it's been great.
Yeah, it was a fantastic event last year. I attended, got to walk around and see many of the vehicles that came in. And it was pretty cool to see how it was spread out over Illinois State University because there's a lot of different, areas. You not only did you have the SEFQ Redbird Arena, but you also had the Bone Student Center. Talk to me about Bone because that was really cool. The section there because it's almost a
Yeah,
museum in a way. I'm not probably using the right word with that, but
yeah. The Bones Center uh, hosted our what we call our gold collection. Every year we do a special collection on a certain theme, and there's about 30 cars in there that had been in previous collections of Bloomington Gold going way back in years. So, and the cars ranged from the very early 50s all the way up to almost new cars. And so there was a lot for people to see. There was some very famous cars. Um, we did a gala opening on Thursday evening, and that was really well attended. Actually, almost over attended. We went way over the number of people we had expected. So but it was a great event. People really enjoyed it.
you talk about those cars that were there. I know I talked to one individual who their vehicle was actually, if I remember correctly, like just in a garage for years and years, and they brought it out specifically for Bloomington Gold.
Wow, I don't know which one that was, but it could be. There's some of those cars are not seen very much. There was a 1963 Grand Sport. There were a real Grand Sport race car. There were five of those made, and they're valued more than $10 million a piece. So one of those was there. There was a couple of cars that raced in Le Mans in 1960, multi-million dollar cars, but also very rare and seldom seen is really more important. So they were really great cars.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned earlier, this is the 50th year of the event. Take me back through the history of it. How did Bloomington Gold get started right here in Bloomington?
Yeah, I think it started basically as just a car gathering, like a lot of shows happened at that time, and you have to kind of put it in your head that there was no internet, there was no Amazon to deliver things, there was barely cable TV. I don't know what all was on, but so people got together at shows like this, and they started in the first few years started selling parts that they had and found that the other people attending needed those parts, and that really grew. Again, there's no internet, no other way to sell them except in person at that time. So that was a big part of how it grew. People started coming from all over the country, and within 4 or 5 years, it was a fairly big event.
Yeah.
Then
And
in 1978, an important change happened. That's when we started doing Bloomington Gold judging. And the reason I say that's important is there's a lot of events where there's judging, but here your car is being judged compared to how it left the factory. So you're not competing with the car next to you or the car four cars down or anything like that. It's just how accurately your car resembles how it left the factory. And that's still the theme of what we do today and made our national judging so important.
no, you say judging based on how it left the factory. So that is how still it remains to the factory and how you've adjusted it and modified it since.
Yeah. So in that judging category, the cars can be totally reconstructed and redone, or they could be original or somewhere in between. So as long as the part appears as the original part would have in terms of the finish, if there's any date codes on them, how it's installed, things like that. That's what the judges check for. Component by component, they go through the car.
Very thorough. And I know there is a surviving judging category as well. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we have we own the trademark for the word survivor, which it's used loosely, in all kinds of different businesses. But in ours, it means a car that has the majority of its finishes and components and engine and everything. Majority of them have to be unrestored. And to get a Survivor Gold award, the car has to be 80% or more unrestored in all areas, which is very difficult to have an older car that has not had much done to it,
Right. And there's also the benchmark award someone can receive.
Right.
Tell me about that one.
Benchmark is an award that's given to cars that can be used as a benchmark for someone else to restore their car to. And the way that you receive the award is on the same weekend if you have your car certified, the first type of judging I was talking about, where they go component by component, and you reach the highest level, which is a gold. And at the same time, you have survivor judging done, and you reach one of the top two levels of that, then the car is eligible to be a benchmark car. So it's a very rare award. Only a couple cars make it each year, so it's really pretty prestigious.
As far as the judging itself, how long does it take the judges to go through just a single vehicle?
That often surprises people. Our certification and survivor judging, each of those are about 30 minutes, 35 minutes.
Okay.
And the reason that is so is we don't allow our judges to use books or have to use other resources. They're just supposed to know everything in the section that they do.
Wow.
So, for example, if you were a judge of a 1965 class and you did engines compartment, you would have to know all the engines that were used that year, all the components, all the finishes, and all that by heart. And so many of our judges have done this for 10, 20, even 30 years. So they're pretty well versed.
Indeed, very well versed. How many judges do you have for each year going across the entire place?
Well, altogether, we have about 80 judges. And each class has 4 judges doing the certification and 3 or 4 that do the survivor. So, classes can be more than 1 year. It could be like there's the 63 to 66 class.
Mm.
Then there's 67 classes, one class in itself, because there are so many 67s that are popular and judged.
And as far as judging itself, you're a judge, and there's an interesting story, if I'm not mistaken, of how you got into judging Bloomington Gold.
Yeah, I had attended Bloomington Gold for a lot of years, and then I began acquiring better cars, and I finally had a car that was worthy of being judged. So I had that car judged. I had a couple more cars judged. I really enjoyed having that done, and I really was interested in how the judges were doing that. And so I applied and literally just asked if there were any openings. And I like the cars that are like 1968 to 72. I like that period, but that group was full. And the division director for that group said, well, go check with the later model cars. They may need you. And I went over and he said, no, we're kind of full. And I said, well, I'll do whatever you need. I'll go get your coffee. I'll carry your clipboard. I'll shine your shoes. And he laughed and he goes, no, we don't do that. I said, well, I'll go get you a cup of coffee. So I was able to just watch them that year. And then that division director did test me on product knowledge and found that I did know. And the next year somebody could not make it. And, the phone rings and next thing you know, you're one of the judges.
There's something to be said about, just being there on site and watching those in action.
Right.
There. Now, as far as like a spectator like me, I don't have a vehicle. I talked a little bit about just myself walking around. I don't have a lot of knowledge, but just being able to check this stuff out and being on site and checking it out. What can a spectator expect as they're coming to Bloomington Gold June 2nd and 3rd this year?
Right. Yeah, there's, we've spent some time on the judging, but there's a lot of other activities that are going on. There's that gold collection that I spoke of in the Bone Center. You could walk through there and you'll see a variety of cars. And there's a there's a sign with each car that tells you just a little bit of information about it. And then if the owners are there, you can ask about it, of course, and they'll probably go on and on for 20 minutes telling you more than you need to know. But that's an interesting thing to walk through, see the evolution of cars, from early years to newer years. This year, we're featuring a gold collection of the Corvette Z06s. It's a special sort of race model that's been made since 1963. It's been done several times over that. So there'll be an evolution of that car up to the brand new 2023 Z06. That's something that spectators can do. But, an important thing is folks from town can come. You don't have to own a Corvette, and children under 12 and under are free. So it's a nice thing to do. If it's a sunny day, walk around, look at the cars, go in the buildings. There's a building in the Horton Field House where we have things for sale, and there's apparel, there's die-cast cars, things like that people would enjoy looking at. There's a lot of used parts for sale, but if you don't own a car, that's probably not something you're going to be too much into. Saturday night, you may have seen that we do a road tour, and we started on Main Street north of ISU, and we headed up to Old Route 66, went up 66 for a short miles, and then they headed north and went around Lake Bloomington, came back down and headed back down into the downtown Normal. And the city of Normal actually hosted a downtown party for all the Corvette people to attend and all the neighborhood to attend.
Yeah,
so that's a fun thing to watch.
And as you said, the town has been very welcoming to you. What was some of the responses you got from those who came in from out of town with their vehicles last year?
Oh, they loved it. They just said that they could go places and everybody liked their cars, and they didn't mind when we did the road tour and block streets for 45 minutes or something. They didn't mind it too much. I think they mostly knew it was coming. It was pretty well publicized. And so the people went in restaurants and everybody asked them about their cars, and people really had a great time.
And obviously you're back here for the second year. It's great to have you, especially with the 50th anniversary, to bring it home. This all started, as I mentioned, 50 years ago. You've been involved now for what, about 20 years or so with Bloomington Gold?
Right. From the time I started judging, and then ended up being over all the judging. And then when I was over the judging, it became available. Dana Meekum from Meekum Auctions owned Bloomington Gold and was trying to sell it. And took a year or two for Dana and I to come to an agreement, but I purchased it from Dana. And he still supports the show and is always a great friend of Bloomington Gold.
Now, what made you want to take over and purchase such a historic event? I mean, that's a big undertaking.
Yeah. I had another business that I was in the process of selling my part of it and planning to retire, I thought, but now this is not exactly retirement, but it's a fun business. It's a passion of mine, Corvettes. So working hard at it is not hard to do. You can really get into it and enjoy it.
Absolutely. And you just have the one event every year, correct? Or is there other things going on with Bloomington Gold?
We've done smaller versions of it. We held a small version of the Bloomington Gold in Charlotte, North Carolina for about 6 years. And this winter, we're moving it to Kissimmee, Florida. Not anywhere near as large as the event in Bloomington. We mostly just judge the cars and may have a couple other activities, but the people involved in the Corvettes, they really don't mind heading to Florida in January to do a car thing. So I think that's going to take off pretty well.
No doubt. And it's something I saw that was really cool for this year. There's like specialty license plates for this year that people can purchase.
Yeah. That we did that for a lot of years when we were in Illinois. Now that we're back to Illinois, we applied and got accepted. And you can get a specialty license plate that you can actually put on your car and drive around with. You have to register. You have to have an Illinois registration. You can't use the plate in another state. So you register your current license plate, and the state accepts it, and they send you a new Bloomington Gold plate, and you put that on your car for about 60 days. It's legal.
Oh, that is really cool. And people can find out about this on your website, right?
That's right. Yes.
Okay, so bloomingtongold.com, and it's coming up here June 2nd and 3rd. Is there something happening on the night before you could do in the pre-gala again?
Yes, we are. Thursday evening from 6 to 8, we're doing a gala in the Bone Center. So there's some hors d'oeuvres and drinks, and walk around and get the first look at these cars that are being displayed for the weekend.
And then you'll do the Route 66 drive around tour again?
Yep, that will be Saturday night at 5 o'clock. So the
Fantastic.
folks who live in town can camp out on the route and watch. That's done quite a bit actually. And back in the years, those streets would be pretty crowded with people watching. We had about 500 cars on the tour last year. Not sure how many we'll have this year. Hopefully a little bit more, but weather makes a lot of difference in how many people participate.
No doubt. How many cars? Do you know how many cars were actually on site last year at ISU?
We didn't do any kind of official count, but we estimated somewhere between 3,500 and 4,500, somewhere in there.
That is amazing. We'll
Yeah,
definitely look forward to it again this year. Guy, thank you so much for the time and really looking forward to Bloomington
great.
Gold.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me on.